situation, and don't come for me because I have like all the boosters and routers and all of that business to try and make the signal good, but sometimes it drops off. What can you say? All right. I was starting off with Nicole, or finishing off with Nicole, who's from LA. She's 38. She's a food delivery driver as well as a clothing reseller. She buys vintage clothing. So now she was like on some meditation journey or something. I don't know. I couldn't tell. I didn't have the closed caption on, but she was like on some spiritual thing or whatever. And she answered an ad for what was the ad for? It was for like a spiritual sojourn or something to Egypt. So so while she was in Egypt, she meets Mahmoud. And Mahmoud, and that's how she says his name, Mahmoud, he was working in a shop, and they hit it off or whatever, and next thing you know, he's like kind of fake proposing to her, kind of like, hey, we should get married, kind of thing. So she goes back home or whatever, and then as soon as she gets home, 5 days later, as soon as she lands in the States, 5 days later, he proposes to her officially on the phone. And next thing you know, 7 days after that, she's on the next thing smoking to Egypt. And I just can't believe she said yes. Like, I mean, there was not enough time for her to get to know him or for them to get to know one another. I know in some cultures, people just do get married fast or whatever, so maybe it wasn't so unusual for him. I can't speak. I mean, listen, I lived in a neighborhood years ago, and it was, I wouldn't say majority, but maybe like half the population was Egyptian. So I did get to learn a little bit about Egyptian culture. Some of my neighbors and stuff were from Egypt, and they were really, very kind people. But I don't think she. Let's just put it to you this way. I lived in that neighborhood. I probably knew more about Egyptian culture than she did. She actually went there. I mean, because it was just too fast. How do you just like accept a proposal like that? Now, she's from a small town in Idaho. And I wonder if like some of that had to do with it, because she didn't seem very like discerning, and very like, okay, well, let me, figure out these cultural differences and things like that. So because she didn't give it enough time, or neither one of them gave it enough time, him as well, right? I mean, had he ever dated an American woman before, a Western woman, should I say? And so anyway, she goes back to Egypt. They had this big wedding, and the wedding was magnificent. The pictures were really beautiful and everything like that. And everybody was there except her family, because she didn't even tell them. How do you go overseas and get married and don't tell anybody? She's not like a victim of like, she didn't escape a war zone or get trafficked, human trafficked or something like that. Literally, she just like was living her best life here in the States, and decides to marry a man from a completely different culture without getting to know him and know how he interacts with that culture, and how in regards to how it would relate to her, right? Because it's different if you're marrying someone who's from a different culture, totally different culture. You've gotten to know each other. You're on the same page about like, listen, I know I didn't grow up in your culture, whatever, so don't be expecting certain things. You know what I mean? It wasn't any of that. So anyway, she goes back to the States, and she tells her friends basically, hey, I'm going to Egypt. And they're like, what? Are you serious? They're looking at her like she's out of her mind. So now we see Chris. Now she's getting ready to move to Bogota to meet a woman that she has never met before. Okay, getting all ready. And I'm thinking to myself, honey, you with this narcolepsy, you better make sure you don't miss a connecting flight, because you may fall asleep and wind up in Indonesia someplace. I mean, this is like some serious stuff, right? I mean, she doesn't sound like she has some game plan. I'm sure a lot of people with narcolepsy, of course, they have to travel and have lives and stuff like that, but there have to be some backup plans for certain things. You don't want to wind up, girl. Anyway, moving on. I don't want to, So now Gabriel is having a conversation with his mother, and of course his mom's protective and stuff like that, and his mom is not all about this new move. But the thing is that because of all the different trips that Gabriel has taken back and forth, there's only so much time left on his visa. So he's feeling the pressure, to go ahead. Oh, I'm gonna have to, hurry up before the clock runs out. So And who she plans on marrying is Isabel, and Isabel is in Colombia, and she has 2 kids. Isabel seems to have a great respect for Gabe. Isabel seems to really have an affinity, like she really seems to like Gabe, but she's definitely nervous about her family. And I don't know how this is gonna go. Because I don't know if they even, I mean, does her family even understand that she is like dating someone who sells prosthetic underwear? Like so what do they think? Do they think Gabe is from the States? Gabe is Latino, but from the States and can still communicate with the family in Spanish. So Gabe can still have a good relationship. There's not a communication barrier. Gabe is just a guy who happens to sell underwear with prosthetic penises in it. I mean, what are they thinking? Like what's the story? How much information do the parents have? Because I'm afraid how this is gonna go. But you never know. Parents may be, may take it better than she thought. But she already said that her parents are conservative, so I don't know how it's gonna go. But what I found really heartwarming was that as Isabel was going into detail about like how Gabe broke the news to her and everything, she just seemed to be like open minded because she said she was like, listen, I see him as a man. She said from head to toe, everything was intact. I said, okay, well, I guess And Gabe told us Gabe had the bottom surgery, so I mean, I guess it's fine for her, right? So now we're going over to Jen. Now Jen, she meets up with her college besties, and honey, why did she do that? Oh my God, listen. They must have brought their nets with them because they were ready for the drag-a-thon, all right? They were just there to drag. They were like, okay, so who's this? What you doing? Oh, come on, like what now? And they feel like she's been traveling all over and she's always dating these men that are not good for her. This woman is 48 years old. She is not using her thinker, okay? Like you got to use your brain, right? Like she already said like she wasn't totally into Rishi when she first met him, and she had her reservations or whatever. And you know I just I mean, like her when she's talking with her friends, and like they're saying like, but how do you know that this is gonna work out? And like, I mean, they just seem to be. Of course, they were asking good questions, but it was more like, "Are you stupid?" basically, kind of thing, right? Because they already know her. I guess they know her history. So then the friend goes, "You know what? I got an idea. Let's catfish him." So so they got a whole plan going on, and she's like, okay, well, yeah, I'll agree to that because I'm kind of curious. I want to know." So then we go back over to what's this girl's name? The new girl, Nicole, right? Nicole, yeah, Nicole and Mahmoud. So she video calls him. And let me tell you, that entire video call was about what she can and cannot wear. Now, or I should say, what she will allow him to control, what she does and does not wear. So she starts talking about, well, how he's pointed out to her which examples of what she can't wear. Like one time they were in an airport or something or someplace, and a woman had on a mini skirt. And when she says mini skirt, I don't even think it was mini because I don't know. Listen, I've never been to Egypt. I don't want to say, but it is hard. It is a little bit hard in my mind to picture someone walking down the street with like a mini skirt. Maybe it was just like slightly above the knee or something like that, and they consider it a mini skirt. But anyway, he told her like, "You see that? That's what you can't wear. That's what you will never wear." And he's not romantic. He doesn't even seem to like her. He just seems to be like, okay, you're mine and this is what you do. And you're about to come here. And I mean, I know you don't like it, but that's what it is here. And he's not even saying like, this is the culture, and I can't change it. I don't like it, but that's just what it is or whatever. It just seems to be like, this is what you have to do, and don't step over this line, kind of thing. This is an American westernized woman who likes to, like most of us here in America, if and when we can, wear tank tops and flip flops, and he doesn't want her showing her ankles. He doesn't want her arms out. Not, he's like, no, you as long as you're covered from head to toe. Now, and I'm a person, I tend to wear a lot of like high necks and things like that. But that's because I'm into vintage style, vintage fashion. In fact, like what she was wearing in the confessional, like I like stuff like that, right? But I'll be goddamned if I want to put on a goddamn tank top. I'm gonna do it, okay? And you can go sit the f down over there, telling me what I can't wear in Egypt. You know how hot it is over. Listen, I don't understand some of these women. I just don't get them. Like, that there's people out there that are just waiting to just pluck somebody who doesn't use their brain, and that's what she's found, obviously. And he's not wavering on anything. And it's unfortunate. She seems like very kind and everything like that, but she comes off like an idiot. And a lot of the people do on this show. I'm you know just why you would sacrifice your autonomy, your freedom. Like, you're lucky enough to be born in a place where you can do all those things, and you obviously exercise those things. It'd be different if she was like, hey, I don't want to really think for myself. I just want to hand all my thinking off to my husband. Then okay, go for what you know. But she's running her own business. I mean, like, why are you trying to give that up? I don't. I think she just thinks that she won't have to give it up completely. That because she kept saying, well, we'll just okay, but we'll revisit that later and see. No, there's no revisiting. You're talking thousands of years of a culture. You're not going to change that, right? And I mean, I'll be damned. Oh, honey, it couldn't be me. Let me tell you something. And I come from or I'm sorry, not oh. Let me let me correct that. I come from a matriarchal get it out, CT, get it out. I come from a matriarchal culture, so it's something that I can't even see it for 2 seconds. But anyway, so let's go back to Jen over in Oklahoma. So her friend, I mean, she didn't waste any time. She set up that account and she sends him a message. And and the message sounded, when she read out loud what she sent to him, it was very catfishy. Like, and she's like, well, um, I contacted him. He got back to me right away, and he wanted to know like where I was from and who I was, and like how do I know him and stuff like that. But he responded, and I was like, yeah, I mean, look at Rishi. First of all, Rishi, you cannot tell Rishi that he is not the Indian Fabio. You just can't tell him. He's got that little thin curly hair, honey. He's out there washing outside, washing outside of his house. Why are you washing here outside of the house like that if you are a former attorney but now a personal trainer? Like, you don't switch careers like that unless you can still live some sort of lifestyle that's at least similar, right? I'm sure as an attorney he would have a better, I don't know, maybe that's just how it is in the section he's from. Where is he from? Is it Jaipur? I forget the city in India where he's from. So then Danielle, okay. So Danielle, she starts, okay. Danielle and Johan. Johan says he wants to surprise her with this butcher shop that he bought. And he gets in there, listen, Dominican Republic, people go there, you go in there on your cruises and stuff like that. But the Dominican Republic is a developing nation, all right? And they still have markets out like they had markets, who knows, a couple of 100 years ago, swatting flies with the little leather strap handle thingy. And she just goes off, right? Because she sees the flies and everything. And it's like, come on, now where he's from. You shouldn't be so surprised. He's not trying to offer you meat from that market. Now, as someone myself with my educational background, it does make me squirm when I see flies on meat. I would not want to eat that meat either. But that is not my background. I'm not from there. And I'm sure that most of the meals that his family had prepared for her that she's eaten came from a market very similar to that. So, she's losing her mind. Like, where's the refrigerator? And where is this? And where is that? And he keeps telling her, like, oh, you don't understand. This is how it is here, So then, all right. So now Jen, she's about to move to India in 1 week. And she tells her family about it and everything like that. And, they don't want to lose her and everything. But her mom seems to be pretty supportive. And then she reveals to her family that that his family do not know that she is even engaged or that they're engaged. And I said, I'm thinking her mom is gonna like lose it, like, stay here, like, come on. But she didn't. And she explains that something about like where, he's not gonna do the arranged marriage. It'll be like a love marriage where he gets to choose his partner, but will he choose her and will the family choose her? That's what I got out of it. And I was like, how are you 48 years old doing something like this? How is it? Does experience, I guess for some people, no matter how old they get, they're still kind of stupid. Like, remember Stuck on Stupid? Like, it's like a gear and they just stay in it. I just don't even understand what she's doing. And yeah, so basically his family's going to let him choose his wife. So now Nicole, now she's about to go back to Egypt for the second time. And she's been going back and forth between countries for a while now. I think she said for a couple of years. And she struggled with the culture. And she's talking to her friends. And her friends are looking at her like, what do you mean you're moving to Egypt? Like, they were shocked because they were like, boy, this girl knows how to keep a secret, because we had no idea. Because last time we talked to her, she was saying that she wanted to divorce him. Because remember, they're already married, but she's just living over here and he's waiting for her to come join him. And she's explaining to them about like, the clothing restrictions. And I'm like, it's not going to just be clothing restrictions. It's going to be a whole lot of stuff. And she's telling them that, basically, she wanted to divorce him initially because like she has to cover her hair. She's not allowed to hug any male, even if it's cousins and stuff like that. And her friends are looking at her like, what? Like, her friends were like, or maybe you could just be with someone who accepts you for who you are and the culture that you were brought up in. And I just don't understand it. I see this all the time. I remember when I was dating before I got married. I remember on these different like dating websites, and this was back in the day, like when dating websites had first started, and I would see a lot of people. It was strange. It was a lot. I mean, not strange. I shouldn't say strange, but it seemed to be on the websites. The number one men that I would see on international sites were always from the Middle East. I thought that was just so interesting, and I was like, well, how's that gonna work? I mean, because of the like these expectations of like wardrobe and how you communicate. And the friend said, if you're gonna get with someone who wants to control the way you socialize, she's not spending the night with guys like, but she can't even give a hug. I was like, oh no, I can't. I remember one time, I'll give you guys a little story. I remember one time I went to this party, right? And it was given, so my friend, she was from Morocco. And she was very like, liberated and everything. And, we had a nice little time together. And the person that was giving the birthday party, they were from Egypt. And I remember the mom, and when I got there, and she was like a real big lady. Remember, she just sat there, and then they were playing music and we were eating and dancing, and they were trying to teach me how to do belly dancing, like Egyptian, I guess maybe Egyptian style or whatever, belly dancing from from the area that they were from. I remember the mom looking at me, and she just shook her head like, oh, like, sit your little American ass down. You don't know what you're doing over here, young buck. So anyway, but I just remember when we were dancing, I remember all of a sudden we were having a good time and stuff. And of course, there was no alcohol or anything. And then all of a sudden we hear the door open. And then here comes the husband of the friend who was having the party. All of a sudden, everyone, it was like, you guys know that, like, those little games you play when you're a kid, when you like musical chairs, like you run real fast and all of a sudden you sit down really quick. That's what everybody did. They flopped down on the sofa and stopped like that, and they froze. And and I just followed suit because I don't want to be the only one still dancing. And I kind of clocked what was going on right away. It was a male member coming into the house, and nobody was listen, this is in New York. We had on turtlenecks and everything, and two of the women that were in attendance, they were sisters, and they were Puerto Rican. And I think they were in the process of converting to Islam, so I think they were just kind of enjoying like these kind of cultural festivities and stuff like that. So everybody was all right with it. Everybody seemed to be, fine and stuff. And I thought, I think I said to my friend later on, I was like, why do we have to sit down? She was like, because you can't. It's a male. There's a male in the house. I was like, what? We got on thick clothes. Like, well, like, what's the difference? Like, who cares? Like, he wasn't spending time in the room with us. He was just literally passing through from one room to another. But the thing is that that is their culture. And while that shit does not work for me, I don't live in their culture, so I can't. It's not for me to tell the person who's giving the party, F this or whatever. But I sure as hell knew I wasn't going to marry someone who had a problem with me, trying to, and it's like beginning, like, belly dancing. It's not good belly dancing. I have my shirt, pulled up to my bra or something. We're just trying to like do it was just a mess. I couldn't believe it. So that was just like a little taste into what it's like to be in a culture that is completely different from how yours is. And like I said, coming from a matriarchal culture, matriarchal meaning that our women don't overrun our men, but we have equality. Like we're very, very equal in our traditional systems of how things were done pre, colonial European contact. We had really, anyway, I won't get into that, but I thought, my God, this is always a nightmare. And, sometimes I, like I said, it's different if she, always covered her hair and did all this stuff anyway, and then she just kind of, inserting herself into something that's already kind of what she's used to. She's not used to that. She's not used to that. She likes to wear her little her little tank tops and everything like that. I mean, her little sundresses, her cute little haircut. Say goodbye to that haircut, girl. Nobody's gonna see it. I mean, what is she thinking of? And but she said that to her friend, she's like, yeah, but I changed my mind because I really missed him. I said, what? Okay, you're gonna be missing something else when you get over there. And I don't know how it goes, like once you're married to someone, because they do have the husbands have legal rights over their spouses in certain countries. And I don't know how it goes in Egypt, but like if she's ready to leave, especially if they have a kid, I mean, is she gonna be able to leave? Because I've seen cases where people, have they made movies about that. What was that movie? Not Without My Daughter or something like that. You better watch out. I'm just saying, she's messing around. It's like the rest of these people. Okay, it's all ha ha ha. They can all go back to the States, but her situation can get very, very dire, and she has no support, none over there. It's crazy. I don't know what she's thinking of. She's really playing a very dangerous game. Um, okay, so we go back to Danielle and Johan. Oh God. So, you know, she's talking about like, this different skincare stuff with him, and like she's presenting it like, oh, you do it like this, like, like she's a Macy's, sales associate, and use your rose quartz and go up your cheekbones and stuff like that. But I didn't even care about that. All I could think about was that scene with her in that butcher shop. And she's like, where's your computer? And it's almost like she thinks she's perfect. And let me tell you, as a person I'm not a native Spanish speaker, but as you guys know, I do speak Spanish, and I've been speaking Spanish, most of my life at this point. And I was listening to her Spanish, and I was like, her Spanish ain't good like that. A lot of stuff that she says, unless you're able to kind of figure out. It's like a person with a very broken accent, speaking very broken English, and you have difficulty like understanding them. Her Spanish is like that, and when she says certain things, and she's sitting here telling him he can't have a future in America. I was like, you know what, you got a lot of nerve saying something like that, because she's obviously of some kind of European background. What about your ancestors when they came here? Whatever time that they came here, were they not immigrants? Did they not have to figure out how to make a life in America? You're not indigenous, so you're from someplace else. right? So why is it that he could never make it in America? That really was just it was very insulting. I feel like she's just going over there with her superiority. She knows that she's looked at as an affluent white American woman with a passport that can provide for the family, and she, when she walks into a room, it's almost like she's a little queen, you know what I mean? And she's like, "Where's your donde está tu computadora? Where's your computer? You need one. You need one." And he's like, "What? I just bought this." But like, he's just thinking I can make a few more pesos to maybe, get like some, buy a couple of extra hogs for the family for the week. Like, he's not thinking like on some big scale, not at least with this butcher shop. And she gets his little notebook, and she's looking, and she's like, "Oh no, what are these numbers? You see how much money you put in? It's not making sense. You're spending more money than what you're making." And he's like, "But it's the beginning, and you don't understand, and this is how we do it." She's like, "But this is, in my country, this is not, acceptable." And of course she's thinking about sanitation and stuff like that. Listen, that butcher shop was a little gross. I'm not gonna lie, okay? But he did have a freezer in the back. But instead of saying, "You know what? Listen, okay, this is your idea. Maybe I can help you kind of figure out something a little bit. Maybe we can get some refrigerators in here, or maybe we can get like some air conditioning. We can close the doors. That way we can control the flow." You know what I mean? Just help him plan. But she was coming at him like, "Oh my God, this is what is this? I can't believe this." What? And she's on the computer. She's like, she's like, "I'm gonna give you a spreadsheet, and you need spreadsheet a spreadsheet." I don't even know what his computer literacy is. And I'm not saying that to be funny, but sometimes in certain places there's limited electricity, people don't have as much access and stuff like that. They didn't meet online. They met in the hotel that he works at. So Johan, I mean, he's a simple guy, all right. He just wants the basics. He just wants a better life, and he's a simple guy. And she's coming at him with spreadsheets. I thought it was absolutely, it wasn't as bad as Angela and Michael, but I was getting a little bit of that. You know what I mean? Just kind of denigrating him, because she just looks down on him like, "You know what? I got this nice, tall, big black guy. I can get what I want. I can control everything." That's what it was giving to me. And it was very, savior complex, if you know what I'm talking about. And I didn't like it. It was absolutely disgusting, the way she was like yelling at him and stuff like that. And I just, Johan's like, "I thought I was going to surprise her and show her what I did, and she would be proud of me. But now I feel like, my spirit is let down." And I felt bad for him. I felt bad for him. And I don't always feel bad for people in these situations, but I just feel like, you know what, you both know what it is. She's older. She's probably not going to be able to give you children. She's American. You're there, good looking, young, tall, whatever. You know what it is. We all know what it is. Play the part. Do what it is that you can do. And this is gonna crash and burn. Now let's find out if he's got a couple of little, muchachas on the island. You know what I'm saying? Because honey, look. I lived in so many neighborhoods. You guys are probably thinking I'm lying, but I'm serious. Because in New York, you have neighborhoods that can be like from New York to Jersey. I mean, I lived in neighborhoods that had majority populations of people and countries that, I mean, I don't want to say that I had never heard. Well, no, I could say there were people that were from countries that I hadn't even heard of. I lived in one neighborhood in New York, and I remember it was on the news one night, like the local New York City news, and this was in a part of Queens, and there were 330 languages spoken in my neighborhood, just in my neighborhood. That's one section of New York City. That's not including the other four sections. One small section. So it is so diverse, and I that's why I kind of like looking at these shows, because I like looking at, how people, kind of come together and how they face their challenges of having multicultural relationships. I'm in one myself, and you know, there are things that you have to work out when you come from different cultures, like, the way that you cook and how you interact with people and how you socialize and things like that. But you do that before you get married. And you have to have some kind of middle ground. It can't be all just, give and take. So, I really was getting like some Angela and Michael kind of vibes a little bit with her. And I just didn't like it. So, I mean, we'll see what happens next week. Did you guys enjoy it? Do you think that Johan is going to wind up leaving her? Because let me tell you, he wants a baby. And I think Johan doesn't really get, I mean, I know he knows, like, okay, she's a little older, but I don't think he really, listen, the guy didn't graduate from Harvard, all right? Let's be honest, right? So I don't know how much he knows about the fertility process and how challenging it'll be for someone of her age to have a baby. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I mean, how likely is it? What's the likelihood? And even if they needed some help, which more than likely she would need at her advanced age, then where's all that money coming from? And then she's going to complain. It's just too much. I want to hear more about this baby situation, and I want to make sure that he's not, having some, well, okay, let me not say that. There's certain things I don't want to say on the internet, but anyway, he might be sharing his yucca with somebody else. I don't know. So let's tune in next week, guys. On Thursday, I'll be back with Married at First Sight, which is an absolute riot. On Saturday, I'll be back with my absolute favorite, Love After Lockup. So if you guys enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, share it with your friends. I hope you guys are doing well. You're taking care. Thank you so much for all my new subscribers, and thank you so much for all you guys that have just been sticking in there and watching my little ramblings going on here on the internet. So that's it. Take care, stay safe, and chupi salacho.